Today we are going to implement the page object model in CYPRESS IO. We're going to have this particular scenario, a very simple one, just to explain you how to do this in your real life. In this case, I have this sign-in website, which is saucedemo.com. In case if I enter a correct username, a correct password, we're gonna be entering to an inventory website, right? So I want to make sure that this scenario is working. Also, I want to validate other scenarios in this login website, right? In case I enter a logged out user and a correct password, we're gonna receive this message here, which is gonna be epic sad face. Sorry, this user has been logged out. And in case I enter an incorrect, for example, username, right? Dummy user. I'm gonna be receiving another message here, which is username and password do not match any user in this service. So I want to make sure that this login website is working as expecting using these scenarios, right? So I'm gonna implement the page object model right away in Cypress. How I can do this? Well, in this case, I have my framework over here, this sample framework, right? And I have created a folder outside of the default ones. I have created a pages folder here. Inside of this folder, I have also created a sauce demo folder, and inside of it, I'm gonna create two different JS files. The first one is gonna be homesauce.page.js, which is gonna be this home page over here, and also I'm gonna create another page here, which is gonna be named inventory page, which is the one when we enter a correct username and password. All right, so let's start working on the model of the home sauce page, right? The login page. What I'm gonna do here is start working and declaring this a class. This class is gonna be named, for example, home sauce page. All right, it is gonna be a normal class, and then what I have to do is also export this using the module exports. It is equal to new, and the name of the class in this case is home sauce page. And there it is. Now inside of the class, I have to declare the elements that we have in this particular website, right? In this case, I'm going to declare an object named elements, and inside of these elements, what I'm going to do is declare the keys and the values. All right, the first thing that I want to make sure that I enter is the username, and it is going to have the value of a function. And what I'm going to do is using the CYGet. I'm sorry. And then I have to come and look for the selector for this username, right? So I'm gonna come here and I see that this input element has, for example, the ID username. So I'm gonna use the ID over here to select that element. All right, now I have declared this. I'm gonna place a comma here since it is an object notation, and then I'm gonna place another object, or actually another element. It is gonna be, for example, I'm gonna name this username input, all right, just to have clear view of what is happening. I'm gonna also declare another element, which is gonna be password input. And if you take a look of the DOM of the HTML, the only difference is that it has the ID password. So I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna look for the ID password over here. So I just have to do this, and it is displaying a kind of error message here, and I'm gonna take a look at what is happening. It is saying that it is requiring let me see what is happening here. I see. I just have to place an equal there, right? Yeah, so I'm gonna continue placing another elements. In this case, I wanna make sure that I enter a login button, right? Because I need it in my skeleton in my page model. So I'm gonna do the same thing, cy.get, and for example, if I come here and look for the input button, what I have here is an ID saying login button. That's right. So I'm gonna come here and look for the ID. If you want to learn how to use the selectors or locators in Cypress, please take a look at my channel and the playlist named Cypress tutorial for beginners. There is gonna be a lot of methods that you can use. And I try to explain you step by step, right? So what I'm gonna do next is do another thing here. If you take a look at this message, we have another element that is displayed only when we entered an invalid or invalid password or an invalid username, I'm sorry, right? So as you can see here, this is a h3 tag, right? And it has the value or the well, the attribute data test and the value error. So what I'm gonna do here is, well, take the whole attribute here, for example, and I'm gonna create another element. It's gonna be named, for example, error message. Yeah, and I'm gonna just come here. I'm gonna use the command cy.get, and as you remember, it was an h3 tag, right? And the attribute here was this one. What I'm gonna do here is gonna come place this syntax over here, because that's something that we have seen before, right? And now we have the element right away ready to start working, right? It is actually looking for the h3 tag, which is this one, and then it is gonna look for the h3 tag that has this particular attribute and value. That's good. So let's continue to with the page model that the home source page has. The next thing that I have to do here is, well, declare the interactions of the elements here, right? So I want to make sure that when I enter a username, well, what I'm gonna do is actually that, using the page model to interact with elements. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do here is declare a function, type username, and well, this function is gonna be receiving a parameter, right? In this case is the username that I want to enter, so I'm gonna create a parameter here. And well, I need to use this keyword elements, which is going to be referring to these elements here in the line number 3, right? And then I'm going to have to, well, look for the username element that I have declared. Now that I have this, well, I have to use the Cypress command type, and then inside of this command I have to, well, use the username parameter that I'm receiving in this function here, right? So I'm gonna do the same thing with password, because I'm also receiving a password and typing it in the UI, right? Password, and instead of username I'm receiving a password parameter here. And instead of using the username input, what I'm receiving, or where I want to type my password, is in the password input, right? So when I use the password input element, and instead of typing the username, I have to type the password that I'm receiving. There it is. Now I have to click on the login button, right? Because that's another action that I need in my page. So I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna create a function named click login, just to give you an example. In this case, I don't have to receive a parameter to click the login button, so I just have to use this elements syntax, look for the login button, and just click on it. I'm sorry, login button, and click. There it is. Now I have my page created. I think that I don't need any more from this page, right? However, when I enter to, for example, with a valid user, an invalid user, and a valid password too, you will see that I'm entering to this inventory website, right? So I'm gonna just make a pretty simple model of this another inventory page here, which is gonna be, or it is gonna have the same syntax. Yeah, class. I'm gonna call this, for example, home source page, or inventory. Could be, it is actually inventory, right? I'm sorry, I'm just gonna call this class inventory page. Well, now that I have this, I have to use the export again, the module exports, and call this new, and the name of the class in this case is inventory page, and there it is. Now that I have this, I have to look for an example. In this case, for example, I need the products title to make sure that when I log in successfully, I am looking for this element and make sure that it says products, just to have an assertion example, right? So what I'm gonna do here is create an elements, right? The elements object, and inside of it, I'm gonna call this title span. All right, I'm gonna assign to this key, well, a function, which is gonna receive in a cy.get and a parameter to look for the element. So I'm gonna come here and inspect. It is an span, right? And it has the attribute title. So I'm gonna come here and look for the element that has this particular class. Now that I have this, well, I think that I'm done, and I can start working on the script, right? On the validation process in the integration folder. So what I'm gonna do here is, well, come to to the integration folder, and I created a POM folder here, right? And I have also created a .spec.js file, right, which is the format that all the specs or the JS files that Cypress provide us. And in this case, what I'm gonna do is, well, start working on the scripting and the validation of the page. So what I'm gonna do first is import the home source page, all right, and then I have to use the keyword front, and then specify the route or of where my page model is located. So it is inside of pages and source demo and home source page, right? There it is. Now I also have to import the inventory page from, and the same stuff with a relative path here. I'm gonna look for the pages and source demo and inventory page here. There it is. Now that I have declared this successfully, what I'm gonna do is, well, save this and start with my simple describe as always. I'm gonna call this spec POM implementation, just to give you a context of what is happening, right? And inside of this, I have to, for example, create a before each. Yeah, let's try that. Let's do a before each here. It is gonna be a simple CY visit, and it is gonna be visiting this website, right? Just let me log out, sourcedemo.com, but it has the full URL here, right? There it is. And now if I come here and, for example, create my first it, I'm gonna call this should login successfully, or should log into inventory page, right? Yeah, there it is. Now I think that I can use, right, the methods that I have created in my home source page to start working on my scripts. So for example, I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna use the home source page that I have created here, right? And I'm gonna call the command type username, just to give you an example. In this case, now it is abstracted, right, in this method, and I just have to send the parameter of the username that I want to enter. So if I come here and I look for a valid username, it is a standard user. So once I have done this, the next thing that I have to do is use this home source page and type the password to, right? Now that I have done this, I have to look for a correct password. In this case, is secret sauce, all right? And after that, I just have to click on the login button, right? So I just have to call the method. It is not waiting for a parameter. Yeah, right. So the next thing that I want to do is make sure that the login was done successfully. How I can do that? Well, if you remember, I also have created an inventory page, which has in this case, for example, I'm gonna look for the elements, and if I take a look of the title span, I can make sure that the title span should be, for example, or should have the text products. If you remember correctly, that was the title that the website was displaying. So after I log in successfully in the inventory page, it is gonna go to the inventory page, look for the title span, and look if it has a correct text. If it has a half text correctly, in this case it's products, right? So I'm gonna come here to the console, and well, as before I do that, I'm gonna come to the package.json, and I am going to look for the script that I need to run. In this case, it's Cypress open. To have a better overview and opening this in the test runner, right? So I'm gonna come here, npm run. Then I'm gonna execute this script. Let's take a look if it opens right away or not. Once I have done this, I'm gonna close this, I'm gonna close this, I'm gonna close the package.json, and I'm gonna take a look if it is working correctly or not. I'm gonna close the Teams because I don't need it. I'm gonna close Discord, and there it is. Well, Cypress is taking its time, right, to load it, to load the test runner. Let's see if it loads faster or not. Well, it is taking long, but yeah, let's take a look of this, if I'm doing everything correctly, and I am. All right, the test runner has been opened, so I'm gonna take a look if I can execute the All right, let's see. I have the folder here, POM, right? This is the folder that I have created, and I also have created the spec file named homesauce, right? Where is my script located? Remember, right? homesauce.spec.js. And if I execute this spec file, you will see that probably we are gonna have, well, our script executed. As you remember, the first thing that it has to do is, well, visit the website, right? That's the thing that it is doing, and then it is gonna type the password, the username, and then click on the login, and then make sure that the assertion is working fine or not. Let's take a look and let's travel in time, right? As Cypress defined this. As you can see here, it is visiting the saucedemo.com website, then it looks for the username input, then it type the standard user information, then the password, then it clicks on login. It takes a few seconds until the inventory website is loaded, and then it looks for the span title to make sure that they have the text products in the top of the website. So that's basically how Cypress works with POM. Right now, let's take advantage of this web, or actually let's make more its to make sure that, well, we have different scenarios covered, right? For example, if I come here and make another scenario using, for example, should display logged out message, right? Because I want to make sure that all the login is working correctly. If you remember, to have the scenario of a logged out user, well, we have to use this username here, logged out user. So if I come here and I change this, you will see that we're gonna have an assertion error, because, well, I'm sorry, there it is. If I open again this, it is gonna try to look for the products title, but it is never redirecting to the inventory website because it is a logged out user. And instead of validating that message in the inventory website, we should be capable to make sure that this message here is the expected one. Sorry, this username has been logged out. So the thing that we're gonna do here is change the assertion. We're gonna come here, we're gonna delete this line here, and we're gonna change to homesauce page because it is inside of this page, right? In this website, and we're gonna look for the elements that we have here, and we're gonna look for the error message that we have declared before, right? Do you remember? It was the h3 data test error attribute. So I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna look for the message. It is a function, right? It is returning the element, and then I'm gonna look, or actually make the assertion using should, and also making sure that it have the text and the text that it is expecting, right? In this case is epic sad face, sorry, this username has been logged out. If I come here and look for the element, and, well, as you can see, it is reproducing the logged out user scenario, right? But it is also making sure that it has a different message here and the element is displayed. Now let's take a look of another scenario, just to give you another example of how we can do this validations with with Cypress and the page object model. Let's imagine that I have I'm gonna copy this because I'm gonna do pretty the same thing in the next example, but in this case I'm gonna make sure that should display, for example, bad or incorrect username message. I'm gonna change logged out user to dummy password, and I'm gonna do the same thing with another I'm gonna copy and paste this here, and instead of username, I want to make sure that it has an incorrect password. When you do that in the website, you will see that we have the same message for both of the scenarios. Username and password do not match any user in this service. So I'm gonna change the assertion here to match the expected message. In this case, I'm gonna paste both of them, and as you will see right away in the test runner, probably it is validating also that when I enter an incorrect username as dummy password, for example, and also when I enter a dummy password in this password input, right, we're receiving this username and password do not match any user in this service. And now guys, that's how you can implement in very simple way the page object model in Cypress. I just want to mention something else. You can see that this code is pretty repetitive, right? It is kind of the same in every single call of it. So I have another way to do all these 4 scenarios in just one of them, right? And that's something that I want to teach you in the next video. So please subscribe and please let a like if you want to take a look of this video, because we can reuse a lot of code and well have a better test, I guess, and well reuse a lot of code as I told you before. Thank you very much for watching the whole video. It was a pleasure. This was JoanMedia, and see you soon. Goodbye.